Jessica, can you please take away the slide? Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, participants, dear participants. We're just passing the 100 participants. Most welcome to this very action-oriented event on realizing food and nutrition commitments. This event will focus on creating results, creating impact. Last year was the year of action on nutrition. Many commitments have been made at the UN Food System Summit, at the Nutrition for Growth Summit. There was also paid a lot of attention during COP26 on climate, because climate, of course, is very much involved. This year needs to focus on working together on the ground to create measurable impact that is scalable and can be owned by the people. My name is Gerda Verburg, and I am your moderator for this event that is organized by all the organizations that were in this first picture: WHO, WFP, GAIN, EAT, and so many, the government of Sweden, and so many other organizations, part of the coalition and alliance to make it happen. You are invited to participate because we want to have interaction, and you're all interested in this safe food and nutritious food, how to realize it. So please use the Q&A box. You will not be able to speak up, but the organization will make sure that I receive your questions. And if you are so nice to also mention who you would like to answer the question, then we can dedicate the question directly to the one you want to get an answer from. Please add your name there, and if you are representing an organization, also mention the organization so that we know who is speaking up and speaking out. That is coming as close as possible to a dialogue and the conversation we want. Dear panelists, ladies and gentlemen, a good event always starts with a keynote. And the keynote for today will be delivered by Marietta Jaeger. She is the Deputy Director General of International Partnerships of the European Commission. European Commission that is preparing for a summit with the African Union. It will happen in a week or so. And I'm quite sure, Marietta, you will focus on this, and all other ways we will have one or two questions for you afterwards. So please go ahead. The floor is yours for the next minutes. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Gerda. Good afternoon, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends and colleagues. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Commission, on behalf of the European Union. I would really like to thank the co-organizers first for organizing this very important and timely event, and of course for your invitation. Let me start by saying that despite our common efforts to deliver on the commitments to the 2030 agenda, we still have a long way to go to meet our targets. And sadly, SDG 2 is far from being within our reach, as Gerda has said. So the COVID-19 pandemic has additionally worsened the situation, and as it has led to an increased malnutrition on the really unprecedented scale. What is my first message is that we need to act now. We really need to act together, and the year 2020 is crucial. So it's important, and therefore the title of today's event, Working Together in 2020 Towards Realizing the Food and Nutrition Commitment, is the right one. So the year 2020 has had a promising start for raising the awareness of the situation and importance of our work on nutrition. That, in our view, is also extremely important. So what immediately comes to mind is the General Assembly of the African Union, which declared 2020 as the year of nutrition. And of course, we welcome very much that renewed emphasis on the importance of tackling the issue. And it is a really opportunity to link Africa's objectives of ending hunger and malnutrition with promoting a sustainable agricultural transformation of the continent. Next week, we have a EU-Africa Union Summit, and we see it as a next opportunity that will really be another opportunity to look at the transformation of sustainable, nutritious, and resilient African food system. This transformation works in support of Africa's agriculture, fisheries, and food development agenda. I hope you all agree with me that this is of absolute importance. And 2022 also starts well, thanks to the orientation and impetus resulting from the important political and financial commitments that were made last year. You know that I'm talking about those important international events also mentioned by Gerda, the UN Food System Summit, which explored the solutions for addressing social, economic, and environmental challenges of the food system, and for using nutrition as a means to bring and to support food system transformation. And national pathways will bring about that change. Then there was also the Nutrition for Growth, so N4G Summit, and I commend really on behalf of the EU, the work of international community at the summit, whose efforts were recorded in 330 commitments registered in the N4G Compact. And of course, over $27 billion in financial commitments. We are proud that the Commission N4G pledge contributed to this success with 2.5 billion euros. And in total, Team Europe, meaning that we bring under one umbrella the EU, its member states, and its financial institutions, committed more than 4.3 billion in fight against malnutrition. As 2022 gets underway, it is now time to ensure that commitments translate into the concrete action. Yes, Gerda, this is the time for implementation of the commitment. And from the EU side, I can only repeat our commitment. For the time being, we have basically finished our programming period with more than 92 programming documents adopted, but we are also looking back on our last programming cycle running from 2014 to 2020 with 4.3 billion allocations for nutrition related actions, and we analyzed the lessons learned. We need to know what worked well and what we can do better. These investments have clearly made tangible improvements. For example, the EU investments have contributed to a positive trend in reducing stunting in 38 out of 42 partner countries where we had nutrition as a priority. And the proportion of children suffering from stunting fell by average of 6.2 percentage points. But we need to do more. So this is my concluding message. And I'm really looking forward for today's debate and discussion to see how collectively we can do better. And as the world recovers from the pandemic, and hopefully, this spring will bring the end and we will all meet in person. And we have really a unique opportunity to make the real change. And therefore, I would say that within the EU, that starts with the EU Farm to Fork strategy that recognizes the inextricable links between the healthy people, healthy societies, and healthy planet, and transition towards a sustainable food system that can deliver the healthy diet. But this will have an impact not just on our future, but also on the next generation. Here you have my full commitment that we are looking forward to work with you in the international multilateral arena, but also with our partner countries to deliver on that and to leave no one behind. No one must be left behind. And Gerda, with that message, thank you very much for giving me opportunity for this keynote speech. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this crucial keynote speech, very much focused on actions. Commitments are made, now it needs to happen. how do you see the African-European Summit of next week contributing to transferring the focus on agreeing things on paper towards collaboration at the country level? Because I have a new motto. It is collaborate or become irrelevant.
This is a very good question, Gerda. And of course, as we are working day and night now to make the summit a great success, and of course, we are still in the process of, agreeing the statements, the resolutions, etc. But as I said, we will put the agriculture and the food system on the agenda. It is part of the discussion. It is part of the delivery. Of course, we will need to leave our political masters to agree on these deliveries. But I can tell you that our commitment as a EU, as a Team Europe, towards nutrition and towards, our contribution to SUN and to all other initiatives and forums where we can contribute, it's absolutely unquestionable. So clearly, everything starts and ends at the country level. What we need to do is really to strengthen efforts of all of us, of donors, international community, CSO, NGOs, to bring and to talk also at the country level, because we need to recognize basically what are the needs of the country, and then work together, to deliver on the results. So this is my main message, and I will be more than happy to report to you on the results of the EU-AU Africa Summit that will take place at the next end of next week.
Very good. Marieta, thank you so much. Let me give you one thing where you can count on us. The African Union has declared 2022 the African Year of Nutrition. This is very promising. It means that the attention is moving in Africa from ending hunger, thinking about calories, towards more the healthy and nutrition. However, civil society organizations whisper in my ear that the nutrition is not very well reflected in the agenda yet, let alone in the outcome. So Marieta, we will let you go because you do the preparations and we know it. And in the end, it's the leadership that decides. But you will be
doing our utmost, Gerda, to make nutrition and the agriculture and food system part of that declaration. I can reassure you that. And as you maybe noticed, I started my speech with the acknowledgement that the African Union declared 2022 as the year of nutrition. And
many thanks, many thanks, Marieta. It's not always the case that a keynote speaker is also available for questions. So we thank you very much. And we count on you, your colleagues, but also the leadership of Africa and the EU to get to a very actionable and results-oriented outcome of this summit. Thank you.
Thank you, Gerda, and successful event, and I will see you on Friday. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Then we will go to a video. It's now time to have a short video.
I want to eat well to make me strong and healthy while not hurting our planet.
A world where healthy diets are affordable and accessible, valued and appealing to everyone, from our youngest children and adolescents to adult women and men.
Where safe, nutritious food is produced in ways that nourish our planet.
Today, millions of people die from unhealthy diets and fall ill every year from unsafe food. Over 3 billion cannot afford a healthy diet.
Our food systems account for approximately 29% of global greenhouse gas emissions. And they drive roughly 80% of deforestation, 70% of biodiversity loss on land, and 50% in freshwater.
We must act to change this. FAO supports the Coalition for Healthy Diets from Sustainable Food Systems. It aligns with our joint vision of transforming to more efficient, sustainable, inclusive, and resilient agri-food systems.
The coalition will support countries in achieving both human health and environmental sustainability goals, a real win-win for people, climate, and nature.
Governments and institutions, UN agencies, communities, businesses, and people of all ages are already doing so much to achieve these goals.
And there are many more opportunities to improve our food supply, our food environments.
And to inspire and empower people to value food as part of their local cultures.
Governments have already voiced their support for action through adopting the voluntary guidelines on food systems and nutrition at the Committee on World Food Security.
There is a role for everyone, but we need to coordinate better and scale up action.
We will help all actors from across your food systems to pull in the same direction, to ensure actions are aligned and more impactful.
The coalition will provide support on addressing all forms of malnutrition in country roadmaps sustainably.
The collective efforts of the coalition will advance data, evidence and innovation for new approaches towards our shared vision.
The coalition will provide a space where everyone can learn from each other, helping each other do more and do better.
As a global movement of young citizens, the achievement of healthy diets from sustainable food systems for all is our #1 priority.
We want to see action now. We cannot afford to wait. Lives and futures depend on our unified, courageous actions today.
Join us and let's make a healthy future for people and the planet together possible.
Excellent. This is the action we want to see, and we want to see more of it, but it is already promising. Did I already mention that this is an official side event of the Commission for Social Development during its 60th session? So working together in 2022 towards realizing food and nutrition commitments. Now we get some reflections on the action or potential action. First, we get the analysis of commitments by the Global Nutrition Report, focusing on the huge commitments that are made during the Nutrition for Growth Summit that was hosted by Japan in December last year. More than $27 billion were committed, but how actionable are the commitments that were made? We get some more information from Dimitra Karageorgiou, and she's a senior scientist of the Global Nutrition Report. Dimitra, what will be the action?
Hi, so hello everyone. We hope to have a lot of action. So this is the plan. I guess we received a lot of commitments, which I will present today. So I will be talking about the Nutrition Accountability Framework on behalf of the GNR. And first I will provide some background information and then a summary of the N4G commitments. If we go to the next slide, please. Okay, so to provide some context, well, accountability is what translates actually commitments into action. And one of the key challenges in addressing the global nutrition crisis is the lack of accountability. So accountability is everyone's business. And by working on it together, we have the opportunity to improve it. The GNR developed the world's first independent and comprehensive accountability framework for nutrition, following a recommendation from the Thematic Working Group on Accountability convened by the government of Japan in 2019, and of course by building on existing tools and expertise. So I would like also to take this opportunity to give credit to the government of Japan, who brought accountability to the forefront of the 2021 Tokyo N4G Summit. So what is different about this framework? The NAF was designed to record all new nutrition commitments and set out requirements for smart commitment formulation. So critically, this framework is redefining how nutrition commitments should be tracked and has created a common system, language and principles to unify monitoring of nutrition globally and measure how commitments translate into impact. And if we go to the next slide, we will see how this framework works in practice. So starting from the upper left corner, stakeholders first develop their commitments and register these using the online platform. Then the GNR reviews these commitments and ensures that they are smart. The registered commitments will be published on the GNR website. And then moving to the bottom right corner, stakeholders will be reporting annually on the progress of their commitments using, again, the online platform. The GNR will review the progress and report on it, further celebrating success and identifying gaps in action. So stakeholders will receive recognition, learn, and then further strengthen existing commitments or make new ones. So yeah, the next slide has a summary of the N4G commitments we received during the Nutrition Year of Action. You can find, of course, more information on the Compact Annex, which is now on the N4G and GNR website. Overall, almost 400 new nutrition commitments were made by a total of 181 stakeholders across 78 countries. All stakeholder groups were represented, mainly country governments, the civil society, and the private sector. Commitments covered all 5 N4G thematic areas, with the majority focusing on health and food. Donor governments and donor organizations have committed new financing of over $27 billion to tackle malnutrition in all its forms. And if we look at the trends, country governments really stepped up, with donor governments making financial commitments of over $15 billion. International organizations focused their commitments on creating an enabling environment to improve nutrition. Donor organizations committed to investing approximately $8 billion on nutrition-specific and nutrition-sensitive interventions. The private sector committed to improving the nutritional quality of their products and building sustainable food systems. Civil society had also a strong presence, with their commitments ranging from enhancing international and multi-sectoral collaboration to improving the nutritional status of populations. And finally, we have the academic and research institutions who committed to conduct scientific research to advance the nutritional status and diets of populations. And of course, this is only an initial picture of commitments. Stakeholders stepped up and used the NAF to register bold and smart commitments. More analysis is expected to be done to get the full picture of what has been committed. But at this point, I would like you to join me celebrating such an amazing mobilization. So what lies ahead, if we see the next slide? In 2022, the GNR will build on the success of the 2021 N4G Summit and will develop the NAF further. Scheduled for the third quarter of 2022, the GNR Year of Action report will feature insights from the analysis of the registered commitments. In the meantime, the GNR will begin the verification of the commitments. The NAF website will have additional functionalities, such as the searchable commitment database, and the progress reporting survey will be developed. The GNR also intends to convene an advisory working group to advise and support the development of the NAF, and is also committed to complete the tracking of previous commitments made in 2013 and 2017. Beyond 2022 now, the GNR is currently reflecting on achievements of the last few years, and following a strategic planning phase, we will confirm the direction of travel. Meanwhile, we will continue to be the primary accountability mechanism for nutrition action and work to ensure commitments are translated into actions. Finally, in the last slide, I would like to encourage you to have a look at the website, where you will find more resources to read on the nutrition accountability framework. We will share the slides so that you will have the links. And thank you, and over to you, Gerda.
Thank you very much, Dimitra. Though you were slightly running out of time, we have 2 questions for you. And I ask you to be very brief on both of them. One from Patty Roendal from ITFAN. She said there were about 30 N4G commitments related to young child feeding and control of harmful marketing. how will governments be prevented from aggressive marketing and lobbying of private sector? That's one. The second question was asked by Pat McMahon, and he says, will the commitments framework being able to measure against the WHO targets and Sustainable Development Goal number 2. So you get 1 minute to answer both questions.
Well, I guess for both questions, the answer is that this is the year that we are doing the analysis of the commitment. So we will go through the commitment, see the content, and decide what kind of analysis we'll be doing. We cannot dictate to countries how they're going to implement, I guess, how to achieve the commitments that they made. That is for the marketing and any other commitment. And it is within our plans to see. We did collect information on the alignment that the commitments have with global nutrition targets. And there are plans to do a relevant analysis on this.
Excellent. Then we have already our first sketch of the day, which is a concrete request to the Global Nutrition Report. We don't leave it only to you, Dimitra, but it's quite sure that we will ask the Global Nutrition Report to measure and to also focus on these two important topics. Thank you so much. Now we switch to Francesco Branca. He's the Director of Nutrition and Food Safety in the World Health Organization, and he will reflect on the potential impact of the UN Food Systems Summit. Francesco, over to you for the next 3 or 4 minutes so that we also can ask you a question.
Thank you, Gerda, and a pleasure to be with you today. So, Food Systems Summit, it was about 4 months ago. Very important opportunity to have so many partners and actors together around this table. Health was really one of the important topics there. Health is an outcome of the healthy food systems. This is not happening, unfortunately. WHO proposed a new narrative that places really health as central pillar for food system transformation and looking at unhealthy diet, multiple forms of malnutrition, safe food, zoonosis, environmental pressure, and with the health of food workers. This was a strong request, particularly by the youth, and this was a strong request by many of the countries who participated in the Food System Summit. The outcome of the summit can be measured in the development of country pathways that really develop a clear plan on how what is the strategy of the food system transition towards the achievement of their goal. There are now 110 pathways published, but also the establishment of a series of coalitions that bring together partners that will support this country effort. And particularly, I'd like to highlight our Healthy Diets Coalition, and you've seen it in the video, is bringing together motivated member states, civil society organizations, academia, UN agencies, really to create a global home for healthy diets from sustainable food systems. WHO has made a pitch for 6 policy actions plus food safety that are long-standing, proven, cost-effective, implemented, scalable, endorsed, and monitored. And these are around nutrition labeling, marketing regulations, healthy public procurement, food reformulation, food fortification, and fiscal policies. The 110 country pathways mention the double burden of malnutrition. 2/3 of them do. About 1/4 of them also indicate the right to food to be achieved through food system transformation. There was also an important mention of nutrition sensitive agriculture and the need to have adequate awareness and understanding of nutrition and healthy eating in almost all of the pathways. This is an analysis of the policies in the country pathways. You see majority of pathways mention public food procurement, mention food safety, many mention fortification. There are, however, areas like labeling, fiscal policies, marketing regulation, and reformulation that are a bit more challenging, suggested by less countries, because this is where the opposition is. This is where perhaps the experience is less, and this is where the support is most needed. You see also that a few countries are able to implement all those actions at the same time, but most of the countries have at least one. So moving forward and really making this happen, we need to provide that support, and we need to have an adequate ecosystem of support by UN organization, by civil society for their advocacy, by the academia, that will make countries more comfortable on implementing these policies. We need to also help with the monitoring, and the coalitions would be very important for the implementation of this country roadmap, particularly the school meals and the Healthy Diet Coalition. So looking forward to working with you all on this. Thank you, Gerda.
Thank you very much, Francesco. You did great. 4 minutes, which is excellent. I very much like and would recommend all the participants to note down the actions that are committed by WHO and partners, because they are all a no regret to be part and parcel of the national food systems pathways. Labeling, marketing, public procurement, food safety, of course, fortification as a solution to fight malnutrition as one of the part of solutions, fiscal policies, positive and negative incentives, and marketing and reformulation. And please be ready to support if a country requests your support. Francesco, the Food Systems Summit, many people have mixed feelings about it. What was for you the point of no return in or after the Food Systems Summit?
Well, food systems are there on the development agenda. Unless we have food system transformation, we cannot achieve the sustainable development goals. And also everybody has a role to play. Everybody needs to take action with the leadership of governments, clearly, but we all need to collaborate.
Very good. Is it only developing countries? It is
a global action. It is, in fact, the whole system that needs to change. High-income countries suffer from a great burden of disease from unhealthy diets, so they need to change. Low-income countries are not able to provide the food security to people, are not able to offer the food at the adequate cost, and everybody needs to help one another to make those systems more efficient with adequate exchanges, adequate trade, adequate investment policies.
Yeah. So the conclusion might be there is no country around the world that has no challenge with their food system.
Absolutely. And we are, yes, we have just finished a year of action on nutrition, but we are in the middle of a decade of action on nutrition. We gave ourselves enough time to make this happen. And I think this has been a highlight for the decade. I mean, this year of incredible commitments with Nutrition for Growth and UN Food Systems Summit, we should only increase our efforts.
Very good, and improve our efforts. Do things different. Thank you very much, Francesco Branca, for your insightful suggestions. The Sustainable Development Goals are an agenda for the whole world. There is no country without a challenge on food and food systems and nutrition. They're interrelated to all kinds of things, health, social protection, poverty, and all these kind of things. So only when every country develops its own agenda and is ready to also support other countries, we will be able to create enough impact to realize the Sustainable Development Agenda, and healthy diets and nutrition coming from sustainable food systems are crucial. Thanks once more. We might come back to you maybe later in the Q&A because there will be questions, I'm quite sure, but we need to deal with our time as well. We go now to a youth representatives, Lana Weitgenand, and Lana is where she should be, exactly at the crossing point of investment in people, healthy food, good nutrition, but also invest in the planet, making sure that climate change is not destroying our one planet. Lana, please reflect on what has been said so far.
I agree 100% with Francesco. This is just the starting point. The commitments made last year are a much needed beginning of our food systems transformation, but they are also a significant beginning. For the first time last year, we had a UN Food Systems Summit. All the way at the Secretary General level, it was acknowledged that food systems are so critical, so crucial to the health of our people and planet, that we need to bring together member states, UN agencies, stakeholder groups, academia to come together around this crucial area. It was also, for young people, the first time that youth were engaged at the highest levels in the leadership of a UN summit. So that was significant for us as well. Close to 50,000 youth from around the world were involved in identifying priorities, outlining commitments, and calling for leadership from governments in food systems transformation. We acted in the Champions Network as vice chairs of the action tracks and as regional youth focal points of varied world regions. Through Act for Food, we pledged as youth to act for food systems transformation in our communities. And we called on government and business to act together with us. We identified our top youth priorities, especially healthy, sustainable diets, and also that everyone should be able to afford this healthy, nutritious food, that we should introduce environmental food labeling and healthy, sustainable procurement, promote plant-based diets, and ensure that young people have a seat at the table in all levels of decision-making. And we pledged to act for change as young people around the world. The UN Food Systems Summit and Nutrition for Growth last year might be over, but we are just getting started. In going into realizing the commitments made, youth and civil society can be implementers. Policies can pass according to youth priorities and with youth along the side, and we can take transformative steps together for healthy, sustainable food systems and healthy, sustainable consumption. We can bring forward the healthy, sustainable procurement, healthy, sustainable school meals, and fiscal policies that encourage this action. Youth are integral and indispensable for creating the food system which delivers on the SDGs in the Decade of Action. And foundational to all youth asks is the ongoing need for us to have a democratic, sustained, and consistent seat at the table in the coalitions, in the coordination hub, moving forward, not just in 2021, but into the future. Healthy, sustainable diets are not only one of the top youth priorities that emerged out of our worldwide consultations, but also an opportunity to advance on climate action, human rights, and nutrition at every meal. Through the Healthy Diets Coalition, we're excited to tap into this opportunity and use the power of the plate for people and for planet. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lara. Yes, we need youth at the table, but we also need youth in action, concrete action at every level in the country as well, and maybe also in political campaigns, because every country who is going for election should have this saving people and saving our planet front and center in their priority setting. Thank you so much. We go to a poll question, because we have promised you that you will be actively involved in this event. And please answer this question. What actions do you hope to see by the end of 2022 to deliver healthy diets? The floor is open to all the participants. It will be open for a few minutes. Will be open for a few minutes. In the meantime, yeah. Francesco, there is one question for you. Maybe you can come to the forefront and answer this question about food systems in fragile situations. What should be done there? You get 1 minute, then we go to the outcome of the poll.
So probably not as much as we would have liked to see. I think that perhaps came a bit more in the commitment of Nutrition for Growth about the direct nutrition intervention. There are a lot in the health systems, but definitely there are a number of situations where crisis prevent, of course, the access to diet. I don't think there's enough commitment there. So although that the issue has been highlighted, I think we need to make a much greater joint commitment. There was a specific action track in the Nutrition for Growth. It was not necessarily prominent there in the Young Food System Summit.
Very good. So we cannot leave behind countries in fragile situations. All right, then we have a result. Oh, of course, all the above should be done. Greater collaboration at the global and country level. Greater global awareness of the links between nutrition, health, etc. More action to make healthy diets affordable and accessible. All of the above should be done, is the opinion of 62%. I align with this opinion. Everything needs to be done at the same time, but let us be clear, it needs to be led from a country perspective, because the solutions need to be tailor-made to a country. And with this, I open the panel discussion and I welcome the panelists by asking them a first question, and I will introduce them on the go. First, we have Dr. Rui Lopez Ridaura, and he is from Mexico. And Mexico is one of the countries who have developed a legal mechanism to improve nutrition in their food system, so along the whole food value chain. Dr. Rui Lopez, can you please tell us what are the lessons that you can share with other countries, because Mexico is a front runner there? What are the positive lessons? What are the negative lessons? So the more pragmatic you can be, the better it will help the do's and the don'ts. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Gerda, and thank you from the organizers of this very important panel and follow-up panel about all the discussions that we have had in the last year. And yes, we have a lot of good experiences in Mexico. As we all agreed, we all need to understand that the availability, affordability, and accessibility of healthy diets should be seen as a human right. And in Mexico, as many and probably most of the planet, the main nutrition-related public health problem is the poor quality of the diet. And in Mexico, this poor quality diet is consumed by most of the population in both rural and urban areas. And we strongly believe that regulatory measures are essential to change this and to change the obesogenic environment that are pushing the population to adopt unhealthy habits and unhealthy lifestyles. And the possibility of changing these regulatory strategies depends mainly on political will at the local level, but also at the international level. Currently in Mexico, we have a government willing to defend the well-being of the population over any other interest, and this is very important. And we're taking this as an opportunity to launch a strong regulation to transform not only the obesogenic environment, but also the entire agri-food system. For example, last year, we already implemented a warning front label, which is a very strong policy for industrialized foods using the critical nutrients profile proposed by PAHO, which I really recommend to be like the standard of these nutrient profiles that can be implemented all over the planet. And we expect this front labeling to have an impact not only in decreasing the consumption of ultra-processed foods, but also in the reformulation of industrialized foods. But also we need to take the advantage that once we have the food labeling, we also need to put other policies that goes together with the food labeling. That is especially on the policies to regulate marketing and publicity of industrialized products that we are currently doing it, and especially for children, and also limiting or probably prohibiting as much as possible the access to ultra-processed foods in specific environments, specifically sweetened beverage, and specifically in the schools. I think the other important priority that we are putting together is to review all the instruments that we have available to strengthen the implementation, monitoring, and compliance of the International Code on Breast Milk Substitutes, which should be a priority in many parts of the world. One of the things that once we start with this regulation, we decided, or we think that we need a more like a framework, a legal framework to have a more profound transformation. And that's why now we are in the wide discussion of a national law on the right to adequate food, which I really think is needed in many parts of the world. This kind of law can really be like an excellent framework to articulate all the transformation of the food system that is needed locally. And the last point that I would like to put is the need of also a global framework, because we are at the country level fighting in the small battles, and in each of the country that can be much supported by global frameworks and alignments of policy at the global level in terms of regulation, especially for the agri-food industry. So it will be nice also in these commitments to push something similar to what we have for the Global Framework Agreement on Tobacco. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I don't have any follow-up question to you, because you needed your full 3 minutes. And for that reason, we move on. But keep feeding the world with your experiences, because, for instance, one of the core questions is, and maybe we come back to this later, we just smuggle it in, how did you get rid of the strong lobbying of private sector to not reformulate and to not develop front labeling and all these kind of things? And we know this is one of the things that people want to know, but I don't want you to answer it right now, maybe later. Then we go to the CFS chair, Gabriel Ferrero. Gabriel, CFS has developed the voluntary guidelines on food systems and nutrition. How are they implemented as we speak at the country level? Can you give already a few examples, and how are you encouraging or following up on this? Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed, Gerda. And of course, thank you so much to the government of Sweden, to WHO, SAN, and the rest of the partners for inviting the chair of the Committee on World Food Security to contribute to this discussion. Well, you asked Gerda about how are the voluntary guidelines on food systems and nutrition that were agreed by the governments of the UN member states, together with the different stakeholders, including the private sector and civil society, and the UN system at the Committee on World Food Security. Well, first, it's a bit early. I mean, after just being agreed some months ago to speak about direct impact. But at the same time, these voluntary guidelines are not specifically, let's say, implementable. What they mean is that they are a public good in terms of a global framework around which all countries, and as I said, listening to civil society and the private sector, informed by science, have agreed on a narrative, on a common and shared framework that should be inspiring now countries, which are the ones that primarily have agreed on these guidelines, to be taking them into their national country level policies, strategies, incentives, and regulations. So this is the way in which this global framework, such as the voluntary guidelines, translate into impact. And for this, it's essential for the Committee on World Food Security, once it has been the space in which governments have agreed on this framework, it is important that for now the CFS harness all the movements, the effort by governments and by stakeholders, and provide a connector at the global level to see how these voluntary guidelines, but beyond the voluntary guidelines, the nationally led efforts are being translated into impact. So this would be, to me, Gerda, the way in which the CFS could serve this function, connecting, working at the global level voluntary guidelines, and now connecting to the local, and the other way around, from local now to the global level. Over to you, Gerda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So they are really guidelines to support national dialogues on the how to improve food systems. Are there one or two countries, Gabriel, that you already know that are really using these guidelines in an effective way?
Well, there are several. Yes, I wouldn't like to point one or two, actually, but well, Mexico has already spoken at this event previously, and there are others, both developed and developing countries, which is very important. The committees, as an intergovernmental committee, brings together developed and developing countries. There is no distinction. All the guidelines, all the principles, all the frameworks that are agreed at the committee are both should be applicable and should be used by developing and developed countries like Gerda. You know, policy coherence is part of what the committee tries to bring, and also setting up a hook at the intergovernmental level where countries and stakeholders may come, in many cases actually, to ask for them to be implemented or to be fostered in the ground. So I wouldn't like to point one or two, but there are indeed.
Very good. From a country perspective, I can only say use these voluntary guidelines as a kind of guidance for developing the agenda in order to make sure that you do not overlook one or two important issues. It's not a law, it's just guidelines, it's voluntary, but it can help a lot in thinking the how and to be as inclusive as necessary at the country level. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair of the Committee on World Food Security. Then we go to the Africa, to NEPAD AUDA. Bibi Niosi, you're very well recognized as Bibi. Bibi, congratulations with the decision of the African Union to make 2022 the year of nutrition. What needs to happen in 2022 to make you happy sitting under the Christmas tree by the end of this year? Bibi, over to you.
Thank you, Gerda, and thank you to the previous speakers. Let me start by just posing a very slightly controversial question to everybody. We can deal with that later. Where did we all go wrong? More than 70 years of working on nutrition and food systems issues and trying to reduce hunger and malnutrition. It's not for lack of commitments, it is not for lack of policies, instruments, guidelines, and strategies. I think for me, what is really significant with the Africa Year of Nutrition is that we are trying to draw down and move from the silver tower, the ivory tower as it were, and walk the talk. We need to look at the fact that we need capacities on the ground, because without the warm bodies and boots on the ground, we can't do much, even with all the money we have. If we don't have the right capacities and right skills mix, nothing is going to go right. Next, we have to look at how do we ensure that countries are better supported from a nutrition governance and from an accountability point of view. And for me, the third thing that is really critical is making sure that in terms of research and linking research to evidence building and policy transformation, it is contextualized. We can't parachute solutions that may not be applicable to the local context. We have to really enter into a very deliberate negotiation with the people on the ground, so we understand their challenges, we understand their problems, and then they can actually help us to say, this is what we need, this is how we need it, and this is what it is going to take for us to move the agenda forward. So looking at Agenda 2063, looking at the Malabo declarations, and now with the Africa Year of Nutrition, and then translating the UN food systems outcomes as well as the N4G, I think it is now time to really walk the talk. Because let's remember that agriculture, food and nutrition make the greatest business sense and greatest investment. Thank you.
I couldn't agree more. So what went wrong and what do we need to do better? Walk the talk and make sure that it's happening, that it can happen in the local situation. Embedding. Very good. Thank you very much, Bibi. Maybe we will have a question for you. I think Pat will have a question for you, but Pat, let me warn you, you are not the only one who wants to ask a question. We also need to give space to the other more than 100 participants in this great event. Thank you, Bibi. We go to Sarah, because Sarah Farley is from the Rockefeller Foundation. Sarah, the Rockefeller Foundation has a brand new strategy. How will you operate at the country level when it comes to food systems and nutrition? What will be your priorities? Over to you.
Thank you, Gerda, and wonderful to be with all of you on this incredibly exciting and important topic. The strategy is actually going to be launched next month. So what I'm saying is really a preview of what is to be announced soon. But I think what's exciting about this 3-year strategy for Rockefeller is diet quality is at the absolute center. So the goal of this strategy in terms of a guiding star is to support 500 million underserved people in terms of improving diet quality. What that looks like from a 10-year outcome, we want to see a nourishing, regenerative, and equitable food system. Where we'll be focused on the 3 years is really organized into 3 pillars. One on good food data and science innovation, a second on good food policy, and a third on public purchasing, as we heard previously to be an incredibly important intervention point. So I'll walk you through it with a little more detail. So in terms of what we're looking at within data, science, and innovation, there's really 3 cornerstones to that work. The first is around the construct of diet quality. We want to really help work with WHO, FAO, UN team, and across institutions and beyond the UN to elevate this idea of diet quality. We think there's work to be done in terms of clarifying the indicators, the metrics, the tools to really help guide national level decision makers through what is a really exciting mix of offerings that are often a bit daunting and seemingly complex. So we really want to be a champion and supportive of the diet quality work. Second is our periodic table of food initiative. So this is a work to radically democratize and revolutionize the field of nutrition to come down to the fundamental understanding of what is the biochemical composition of the foods we eat. Really excitingly, the PTFI, as we call it, will launch at the World Health Assembly in May, and the first 500 foods consumed by humanity will be analyzed by the PTFI by the end of this year. Third dimension is true cost accounting. We think that true cost accounting as an approach really helps unify the environmental, the nutritious, the equity dimensions, all under one cost-benefit analysis that is useful by decision makers in terms of informing policy. So we want to be a champion and continue to both deploy TCA in country context. We're looking at India and Kenya next, but also help decision makers use TCA to make better choices. On the policy point, there will be working on nutrient profiling systems. That will be a key focus, as is food as medicine. Largely the food as medicine work will be within our US context, but we're looking to scale that. And last, to the public procurement work, we have a really exciting partnership with the World Food Program and the School Meals Coalition that's focused on this transition from a cost basis for the decision-making of food to expanding to a good food purchasing framework where we're scrutinizing food choices for procurement through the lens of nutrition, environment, and equity concerns. So really exciting to see that work take shape with WFP, and in other contexts. That work has some beautiful partners in the United States, and we're looking to bring it into India as well. So I'll pause there. It's a big year.
Thank you very much, Sarah, and all the best with the launch of your strategy. Please keep in mind that you always need to ask yourself the question, and what does it mean for the people in the local situation? Absolutely. How can they get the best out of it for their situation, as Bibi said, and as the focus is today? But we're looking forward to it. All the best. Then I go back to Lara, because she is, she has already commented, but I would like to hear from you, Lana. When would you be satisfied about your own actions and results this year in this cross-cutting issue of planet and healthy and nutritious food? What need to be accomplished by the end of 2022?
A large focus for me in 2022 is COP27. So having a successful youth mobilization to bring the food systems focus to COP27. I know a number of us were at COP26, and there were so many amazing side events within our network and our community about food, but it was not on the main agenda in a strong way. So having young people really bring the food systems message through to COP27, get it on the main stage and the main agenda, that would be a big success for me.
Okay, that is one thing. I have already asked you a little bit about what will youth do at the country level, and how will you be mobilizing them, because being at the table as youth is indispensable, is needed, and nobody will neglect this anymore, because you're loud and clear. But now it's about the action and the leadership in society, in the communities, to make it happen. Sleeves rolled on.
Yes, I'll add on that Act for Food, Act for Change is an initiative that I'm really excited to be part of. It came out of the UN Food Systems Summit.
What is it? What is it? Say it again.
I can put it in the chat as well. It's
No, say it.
Act for Food, Act for Change.
Yes, good, yeah.
So actions for food and also actions for change. And that was a youth initiative that went through the Food Systems Summit, but it continues on to 2030. And that is where young people have pledged, over 150,000 now, have pledged to take action in our local communities, and then to also advocate for these youth priorities that we are gathering in society, in our policy, in our government. So making sure that we have the element of, we are also taking this action, but we are also calling on coming together and having this action go through in the decision-making spaces that we need to see it. So having both, for sure.
Thank you very much. How do you get this local voice and local need in COP27? No need to answer it right now, Lana, but it would be great to have already this reflection, or the reflection of the needs or the progress at local level reflected in COP27, Egypt we're talking about. Yeah?
Yes, certainly. So actions for change.org is where we're gathering the youth priorities. So any young person can vote there, and I encourage you to do so.
Very good. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, dear participants and panelists, give a big virtual applause to the panelists. we are running out of time, but Naoko Yamamoto and I, we will be able to make sure that we can end within 6 minutes from now. What are the takeaways that I think are important? Thank you very much for organizing this action and impact oriented event as part of CSocD60 session. Thank you all panelists for the translation into action. It has to happen at country level, and countries need the support. It needs to be government owned. That is the lesson that we can learn from Mexico and from all other countries that are dealing with it. It is crucial to make sure that all the commitments at global level can be implemented without lobbying and wrong influences of private sector and other players that don't like to get things changed. And measure against concrete World Health Assembly targets and SDG 2 outcomes when it comes to the nutrition framework and the global nutrition report accountability. Then concrete support in many important issues: labeling, marketing, public procurement, a very strong tool, food safety, fortification, fiscal policies, both incentives as well as taxes, loop the taxes revenues back into improved food systems and nutrition. That's a lesson that I have learned. And support governments in marketing and reformulation. That is a lesson from Mexico, but it's also clear on the agenda of all the partners that are organizing this, this idea. Make food systems and healthy and nutritious food part of elections. Bring it into campaigns at all levels, because campaigns, political campaigns, are not only about security, are not only about reaching Mars or something. It is about people, and governments need to take care of their people at all levels. Then, of course, use the voluntary guidelines that are there as a guide, as a guiding tool at the country level to not only talk about the what needs to happen in food systems pathway, but also the how as a sort of reference, as a kind of reference check. And then I think the important lesson that we always need to ask ourselves, where did we go wrong? Because the advocacy is not new, but we forgot to walk our talk. And if we continue to do what we did, we will continue to get what we got, not the solutions at the local level, but the solutions on paper, in big agreements, in funding and what have you. This time it needs to be systemic with solutions that give the people the tool in hands to decide their own future and to create the future for themselves in a decent way and for their children. And then finally, food is medicine. Be aware of it. It's not only fuel, it is medicine, and it can be very preventive. With this, I would like to thank all of you for making this event so lively and, where possible, interactive. And I am happy to give the floor for the closing remarks to Naoko Yamamoto, and she is the Assistant Director General of the World Health Assembly and Chair of UN Nutrition. Naoko, when will you be satisfied, happy by the end of 2022? What needs to be accomplished for you? Over to you.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you, Gerda. And first of all, I would like to join Gerda to appreciate all participants and also speakers, and they give us sharing with their insight. It's quite inspiring. And also, I think I would like to thank the Commission, the social development, to put this hunger and nutrition is as an agenda of the 60th section. I don't want to repeat again, but the COVID-19 is teaching us important lessons, right? COVID-19 it has exposed the weakness and inequities of the health and food system and how both systems link together. And also we have seen that progress in achieving the global nutrition target has been affected by COVID-19. And also we've seen that effective responses from the government and in our partners, it can protect the people and prevent the pandemic from making even more victims, right? So we're still struggling with COVID-19, but also international committee has already started to discuss COVID-19, post-COVID-19 and the recovery. And I would like to say that even during the COVID pandemic, we need to appreciate many producers, health workers, government officials, civil societies, many people who have contributed to support people and sustain food system and some vulnerable. So today we clearly agree that 2021 was the year of commitment and 2020 this year should be the year of implementation. So Healthy Diet Coalition will be contribute to it as well. So before I close my closing remarks, I expect if we have enough time, maybe Gerda will ask me that, how we can say, how would I measure the success to be, say, 2022 was a good year for progress on healthy diet. So I would say at the global level, nutrition, healthy diet, food systems need to continue to be a core of agenda and discussion and highlighted at the upcoming political forums in this year as well, including Forum of Health, One Health, Environment, UHPH, and so on. In addition, all of us need to participate actively following up mechanism, like we had a global nutrition report and global coalition as well. At country level, we need build and come up with great many cases where we can demonstrate concrete progress to expansion with or broaden our partnership, strengthen coordination, and more focusing on the most vulnerable. So thank you again for joining today for all of you, and looking forward to our continuous dialogue, and hopefully we will celebrate our tangible progress together at the end of this year. So thank you very much. Back to Gerda.
Thank you very much, Madam ADG and Naoko Yamamoto. Thank you, participants. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, keynote speakers. Thank you all very much, and organizers, because I think this is the most important thing. It needs to be organized and brought together, and that is what happened. So please join me in applauding each and every one, and let us make this happen. Translate words into action, into measurable impact. That is what we need to learn from our most recent, or our decades of experience that we have behind us. The future is different, require collaboration, otherwise we will become irrelevant. Thank you so much. The meeting is closed.